What's up, everybody? It's Jordan, and welcome to the Sports Suit Hines Show. Today I have a special guest. He's a former NFL quarterback. He played for the Redskins, Raiders, Bears, Browns, and Bengals. I have Jason Campbell joining the show. Thanks so much for joining the show, Jason.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Jordan. Thank y'all for having me on. Look forward to having a good conversation and everything. So, appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely. So we're going to go ahead and get started here. So at what age did you first start playing football?
Oh, man, I started playing football. My brother was 6 years older than me, so I used to play in the yard a lot. We used to throw the ball up in the air and, whoever catch it, 30 people trying to tackle you because I grew up in the country. But playing organized and tackle football, I didn't start that until I was 13 years old. So at 13 was when I began to play organized football in seventh grade, and then from that standpoint on, I always played the quarterback position. I never played any other position in football, and it led me always to the NFL. So, I was kind of glad I waited till I was 13 to start playing tackle, because if I started too early, learning about all the hits and stuff on your body, that had just been too soon.
That's really cool. But were there any other sports you played aside from football?
Yeah, I played basketball. Basketball is actually my favorite sport. Basketball, I was a two-sport star out of high school. Could have had multiple scholarships, and I had multiple scholarships in basketball as well. And, I just chose to stay with football because I said, man, a lot of 6-7 point guards and 6-5 point guards, they play basketball year round. I said, I only do it half the year. So I think I need to stick with football, stop being a 6'5" quarterback. So at that time, I decided to make the decision after I signed with Auburn. I signed to play both sports, but I just made the decision to just stick with one.
So growing up, who were some of your favorite athletes and teams?
Growing up, I'd probably say one of my favorite athletes was Steve Nair. He's from Mount Olive, Mississippi. Grew up 15 minutes away from where I grew up. I used to like watching Randall Cunningham, Warren Moon, Joe Montana. I used to watch him on TV. Jerry Rice was one of the ones I used to watch. Basketball, my favorite was Michael Jordan and the Bulls. I think which was a lot of people's favorite. I was also a big Kobe fan with the LA Lakers and everything. So, I always watched sports growing up, man. It's always been a part of my life, a part of my history and everything. And, so I enjoy watching it.
Yeah, all those guys were great players and legends in their sport. So coming out of high school, you committed to Auburn. What made you want to go play at Arbor University?
Auburn felt more like a family. I visited a lot of other universities, but at the same time, when I went to Auburn, each time I went back, it just felt like home, and it just felt like family atmosphere. Like even the games, win or lose, the fans were still always close and intact, and I used to hear people say that, but after being a part of the Auburn family, like it is like a family. It's like a huge family, and we all support each other and connect with one another. You always hear people say War Eagle. It's kind of how we greet one another as War Eagle and everything. So once I went to Auburn and got on the campus, like after 3 times, I knew it was the right place for me.
So what was it like to play at a prestige college like Auburn?
Oh, man, you're talking about a lot of fun. You're talking about, seeing 86,000 to 87,000 people in the stands, every home game. If you playing a big game, especially against your rival like Georgia, LSU, and Bama, you playing those type of games, you're going to see even more than that on the outside of the stadium. You're going to see another 30,000 to 40,000 people outside the stadium just because they can't get a ticket to get in the game. So, it's just it's an electric atmosphere. The student session, is, unbelievable. If you ever want to experience a night game, Auburn is the place to go experience a night game versus a big opponent.
Yeah, Auburn is definitely one of the best football programs in the country. And during your time at Auburn, you were part of arguably the biggest rivalry in college football, the Iron Bowl. What was it like to play in such a historic rivalry?
Yeah. I grew up in Mississippi, so I've always watched the Mississippi State, Ole Miss Bowl, Egg Bowl growing up. And then once I got in high school, I was able to follow the Iron Bowl more. And, I always, say, man, that game, that thing's intense. And that's when I got a chance to play in it. It's very intense. You can throw the records out the window. It doesn't matter if the team is 2-8 or 11-0. Like, you're going to get their best shot. And that's a game that you really don't have to say much about. Kids just know they got to get up for that game. And I just remember playing in it, man. It's like sometimes families don't even speak to each other. Husband and wife married each other. One went to one school, the other went to the other one. It's like for that week, I used to think, oh man, people just talk about like literally, like people really like wouldn't talk to each other. I met one couple. They said, well, since y'all had done beat us, for the last 2 years during that week, my husband, he's not allowed to sleep in the bedroom, and I don't cook for him for the whole week. And I looked at him, he's like, it's true. I said, what? So, just because, people that intense about the game.
So, playing in that rivalry, would you say that the Iron Bowl was the most intense game you've ever played in?
No, I wouldn't say that. It is very intense. Iron Bowl is very intense. I would also say the Washington Redskins versus Dallas Cowboys is an intense rivalry. I got a chance to play in that one. I got a chance to play in the Oakland Raiders versus the Chiefs and versus the Chargers. It was a very intense rivalry itself out in the Bay. And then, I did experience the Chicago Green Bay rivalry when I was in Chicago. So that was a huge rivalry as well. So, I got a chance to experience some intense rivalries. And, of course, I had a chance to experience the crazy rivalry between Cincinnati and Pittsburgh. It's always a fight. So I got a chance to experience some really good rivalries in my career and everything. And, rivalries can be good. Sometimes they can be taken out of context, but for the most part, they're good. And, they make the sport, make the game better.
So throughout your college career, you accomplished many things, like going undefeated against rival Alabama, helping Auburn to a perfect 13-0 record in 2004, and being the SEC Offensive Player of the Year. What would you say was your favorite accomplishment throughout your collegiate career?
Oh, man, I'd probably say my collegiate career, let's say the undefeated season. Us going 13-0, winning 15 games straight, dating back to the last 2 games we won the year before, ending the season. I think that was a huge accomplishment. It's hard to win, at that level, especially in our conference, the SEC conference, and playing against, the likes of Nick Saban at that time. He was at LSU when they was winning, and then, Philip Former was a coach at Tennessee. Our conference was just loaded with top-notch coaches. And to us to go undefeated in that division and win 15 straight games was a huge accomplishment. And, and everything. It's something that will always stick with me for the rest of my life.
Yeah, absolutely. It's hard to go undefeated in regard of any conference, and the fact that you were undefeated in the best conference in college football just proves that how good your old team was.
Right, yeah. Just to go show because we had superstars, but at the same time, everyone kind of put that ego to the side to make sure we was all trying to get one goal. That was a win at the end of the day, and that was our huge and biggest accomplishment. And like I said, we had a lot of guys go first round that year. Ronnie Cadillac, Carlos, myself, and everything. So, like I said, we was able to change history at Arbor. I think after we went undefeated, Auburn started to get recruits like Cam Newtons and Nick Fairley's and just big guys. People just wanted to come to Arbor. You see, Arbor the last 17 years have had top 10 recruiting classes, and every time I walk by some of these kids or whatever, they're like, "Oh, you Jason Campbell?" I'm like, "Yeah." They're like, "Man, I used to watch you when I was little, man. Like he was one of my dad's favorite players." I'm like, "What?" And then now as kids in college playing ball, it makes you feel like you're old and you're still a young man. But it just goes to show you, man, like people love football in the South. Like it is like a part of life. They love it.
That's really cool. So the Washington Redskins selected you in the first round of the 2005 NFL Draft. Can you describe the moment when you heard your name called on draft night?
Yeah, it was surreal. It's just that moment that you're gonna get drafted at that standpoint, but it's just surreal just to hear your name being called and then to understand that, man, you have reached the pinnacle of your dream. Your dream as a little kid was to make it to that level, play on Sunday evenings and be able to support your family. And now you're here. Like it's here. And so that was surreal to see my family crying and my friends I always grew up with. People that's been there with me since day one. It wasn't just about me. I wanted the moment to be about them as well, so they can experience something as well and experience that type of magnitude of, what it's like to be able to go through what we went through and to make it to where we was going. Like, that was just, blessings of God and thankful. So, we just, cherish that moment in life and try to pour that same stuff into my nephews and everything as they continue to grow in the sport and push them forward towards their dreams.
That's really cool, knowing that your NFL dreams were finally coming true and the hard work had finally paid off. So, in November 2006, you made your first NFL start. What was it like knowing that your hard work had finally paid off and that you were now a starting quarterback in the NFL?
Yeah, that was surreal. Got a chance to start against some of the big name guys in Tampa Bay. Derrick Brooks and Ronnie Arbor was on that defense that year. And I remember going down there, I was super nervous and everything. Got the high expectations. At the same time, you really hadn't had any reps offensively because you've been running scout team reps up to that point. And to now, like, hey, man, this is happening. Like, this is it. Like, I hadn't started a game in a while. And, I went out there and really had a really good game. I just remember our first pass was like a 50-yard bomb to Brendan Lloyd, which would have been a touchdown out the gate for my first NFL pass. I just remember it hit him in the basket. He dropped it. And guys was teasing on the sideline, like, man, you dropped his first pass, bro, which would have been a touchdown. And bomb at that. But, it was all good, though. I took a lot of excitement out of it. But I ended up having a good game. We lost it at the end, but at the same time, though, getting this opportunity to be a starter in the NFL is not easy. It's only 32 jobs in the world at that aspect.
It's really cool knowing that you worked so hard, you were drafted, and throughout the years that you were finally achieved your dream, and you are now a starting quarterback. So what would you say was your favorite moment during your time with the Redskins?
Probably say favorite moment time in the Redskins probably was I have to guess probably playing the Cowboys. My first start against the Dallas Cowboys was out in Dallas, and I remember playing in that game and everything, and it was a tough hard fought game, and I put up a lot of numbers, and I think that game we may have lost it at the end, but then we went back the next year and had another one, and we ended up winning that one. So, that was a great experience, man. I'd probably just say, that game and probably beating the Saints when they had a really good team. We was down 10. I think they go with under 4 minutes to go in the game. Ended up hitting Chris Cooley. Backed up on the 1 yard line, hitting him a 20-yard pass. Ended up getting Santana Moss, the next play for like a 67-yard bomb for a touchdown to put us up to basically win the game. And the crowd just going crazy.
Redskins and Cowboys is arguably the biggest rivalry in the NFL. Those matchups are always really intense. So in 2010, you signed with the Raiders, and in your two-year stint with Oakland, you went 11-7 as a starter. In 2011, you and the Raiders were off to a hot start, going 4-2 to start the year. Unfortunately, you injured your collarbone. The Raiders then traded a first and second round pick to the Bengals for Carson Palmer. What was your initial reaction to the trade, and did you have any idea that the Raiders were looking for quarterbacks at the trade deadline?
No, I didn't. I thought that was the reason we signed like Kyle Bowler, and all season we signed Trent Edwards, where something was to happen. We had two veteran quarterbacks who's been starters in this league before, and everything. And like I said, I was, one of the only winning quarterbacks to come through Oakland after Rich Gannon. They hadn't had a winning quarterback in all those years. And, unfortunately, I get hurt, about to go at 5-2, because that was right at halftime. We was winning pretty good. And then, to find out 2 days later they traded, and giving your job and your contract pretty much away to another quarterback, that kind of hurt me a lot. I was just like, man, people don't value all the work that I put into this, trying to help turn this franchise around and giving them the best that I had. And then we're winning and the franchise is going in the right direction. But all of a sudden they just, flip on you like that. And, and I can't say all of them. I think pretty much the coach was behind that one and everything. anything ever gets to harm your career back, like that hurt. And but at the same time, you just keep moving forward.
Yeah, that's really crazy considering, I mean, you and the Raiders started off 4-2, and at the time, the way it was looking, that was looking to be your best season in the NFL ever, and the fact that they trade for Palmer, who basically quit in the Bengals, trading for a guy that you don't know if he's going to do the same thing to the Raiders or not. That's just crazy.
Yeah, it was frustrating because simple fact was I had a connection with my teammates too. Like we was all young, we was all growing together. And once you get that connection away from the football field, it carries onto the field. And that makes you play even harder for each other. And that's just hard to assimilate at the NFL. And that's what we was having going on there.
So in the following season, you signed a deal with the Bears. Then in 2013, you played for the Browns. You started 8 games for Cleveland that year. How difficult was it to play for a team during that time frame who wasn't really good and was arguably the worst team in the NFL?
Yeah, that was hard. I'm a winner, used to winning, and I went there to compete for the job, but I understood, Brandon Wheaton was the guy that they brought in as a first-round draft pick, so they told me they wanted me to mentor him and help him grow. So that's what I did. And then, he ended up getting hurt, and then they ended up taking the third guy and putting him in front of me, Brian Hoyer, and I was like, yo, what's going on? And they was just like, well, we want to see what he has, but he's a young guy. We're trying to see what we can have for the future. Nothing against you and everything. So then you end up having to help him, and then all of a sudden he gets hurt, and then they put Wheaton back in there. I'm just like, okay, Wheaton's healthy to play, and then then they pull him. And then we get to the hardest part of our schedule, which we're playing New England, Baltimore, Cincinnati, Kansas City Chiefs, who was undefeated at the time. And then they say, hey, Jay, we want you to start for us. I was just like, okay, y'all ain't giving me all these reps, y'all just haven't mentor, but now we're the hardest part of our schedule, and now y'all want me to be that guy. So I said, okay, I set the challenge. So I set the challenge. We go out to Kansas City. No one in the world gave us a chance because they was undefeated, and we was actually driving to win that game in Kansas City. And then the next week, we ended up beating Baltimore, which Cleveland hadn't beat Baltimore in the last 13, 14 times or something. And the first time they beat them in like 10 years or something in Cleveland. And we win that game. And then, we go to New England. And we were up 12 points on New England with 1 minute and 56 seconds left. And I've thrown for almost 400 yards, 3 touchdowns. We played an outstanding team game. And we ended up losing that game. We ended up, give up a touchdown on a crucial pass interference call that wasn't pass interference. They gave them the ball number 1. And then they get an onside kick, and we missed the onside kick, and they get it. And then they score again. And that's how they end up winning and beating us in that game. I was just like, my God, like how many bad stuff can happen to a team that plays so good and we're in the games? And we're like in New England winning that game. And so there's just so many games that went that way down the stretch for us. And I don't know what it is about that place, but their fan base is so awesome. They're so great and so hungry to win. I just feel like we win that New England game and we beat Baltimore and Kansas City. In that stretch, I think that would have opened doors for us to come back the next year and have a really good year. But, of course, they broke everything up.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really crazy. Cleveland's been known to have been dysfunctional the past decade or so. Would you say that Cleveland team you were on was the worst team that you've ever been on?
I wouldn't say per talent. I say talent is one of the most talented teams I've been on. It's just the fact that we were so young, we were still trying to learn how to win. When you got there, the expectation of winning wasn't there. It was just, you're trying to implement that. And but the talent was there. Like you look across the board, there's so much talent. But the thing about Cleveland, though, is a revolving door. It changed so much. Like even that year, it was 4-12. But we had 6 games that we lost under 7 points, and maybe 2 or 3 under 3 points. So the games could have went either way. So you're that close to flipping it from 4-12 to maybe the next year having a 10-6 type year or something. But you never get that opportunity to get to that point because everyone bashes them so much, so they put pressure on the ownership. So they just change everything. Every year it's changing. And I just felt like had they kept Rob Shazinski and kept me that next year coming back and and getting to know all our players now and then putting that whole team together, I feel like it would have been the same experience in Oakland because I experienced the same similar thing. But the next year we got a chance to come back and everything and change things. And I think it would have been the same way there. We'd have had another year to come back together and make a difference. But instead they blew the thing up again. And when you blow stuff up, you just start all the way back over. Like, you got to go through some type of rough times sometimes to reach success because you remember what it was like when it was rough, when you're having your success that makes you keep going. But if you're always just changing all the time, you're not willing to go through some rough times to get there, then it's going to be the same thing year after year after year.
Yeah, I completely agree. Aside from Mayfield, the past decade with the Browns, it seems like if they start a quarterback 2 or 3 different games, and if they don't win a game or they don't play good, they start a different quarterback. It doesn't really make much sense to me.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense because as a quarterback there, man, you have to get rooted and stuff. You can't just plug somebody in and say, okay, here's 3 games that you do, and you don't like it. Like, that's not how you do. That's not how you play the game of football. Like, it's just not the way that you deal with quarterbacks. It's just, but that's just how it's done. You see them make the shirt and stuff with quarterbacks. Like, I was just like, that's so unfair. I'm like, you don't even know my situation. You got my name in there. I was just like, I didn't even get a chance to even start until we got to the hardest part of our schedule. And I said, and plus, I wasn't even getting reps. Like, in the games that we was in, we put up solid numbers and should have won a lot of those games. I was like, but you can't say, oh, the quarterback failed. Like, so it's so upsetting to see that type of stuff, which makes you upset. Like, people have no idea sometimes of what it takes to play that position and how important it is to have all the pieces in place around you. Like, you have to have those pieces in place. Look at Nick Foles, for example. He's in Philadelphia. He does great. He goes to Jacksonville. Looks like a totally different quarterback, because not all the pieces his surroundings are there.
I completely agree. The quarterback, it seems like they have to have time and they have to have chemistry and they have to have enough time to have chemistry with the players, not just play 2 games, you're done, and they don't have chemistry with the players and not enough reps and stuff like that.
All right. Yeah, that's the thing. It just takes time, man. Like, but it's just not even just a quarterback position. Quarterback got to depend on so much, in front of him. He has to be protected, block for, and have a really good play caller at that level too. It's not just you plug any coach in there and say, oh, he's a coach, so it just works. No, that's not the way it goes. It's the difference between great coaches and, just some coaches. So it's a difference.
So the following year, in 2014, you signed with the Bengals. What influenced you to keep playing and take your talent to Cincinnati?
Yeah, Cincinnati, they called me and wanted me to come back up Andy Dalton. Thought I'd be a great mentor for him. And, at this point, I was kind of upset that I wouldn't get an opportunity to be a starter in the league again. I was still pissed off with the Oakland situation. And then, Chicago only got 1 star, and that was horrendous because playing against the 49ers, I got hit like so many times and sacked like 9 times or something. I didn't have time to do anything. So I didn't get a chance to have a film out to even show that I still was there. Then I go to Cleveland, I do pretty good. I'm just like, dang, but because our record wasn't good, you don't get that opportunity again. So you have to accept the backup role in Cincinnati. And which was cool. Andy is a great person. I enjoyed my time with Andy. I enjoyed playing for the Bengals and everything. But at the end of that year, I was just mentally and physically drained from going through all the stuff I had to go through. And I ended up having to just say, you know what, I want to go in a better direction in life. I've given so much to this, but it hasn't given it back to me, and I'm just, I just want to leave out, with my mind right and go in a different direction.
Yeah, me and my dad are big Bengal fans, and we were really excited that you signed with the Bengals because I was a big fan of yours growing up when you were with the Redskins. You mentioned that you retired the following season. You retired in June 2015. After that moment, you retiring, was there ever a moment that you considered coming out of retirement and continue to play?
There was one moment. I think, maybe like right before the season started, I got that itch again, and some teams was calling, and I was just like, but I said, if I can't give anything 100% of my heart, then I just can't do it because I'm not going to do anything halfway. Anything I do, I'm going to put everything into it and everything. So, I remember Andy got hurt during that year, and Cincinnati reached back out to me and they tried to get me to come back out because AJ was the quarterback, and they was like, hey, we don't have AJ really in the facility now. Andy's pretty much out for the year and everything. They was just like, you can come back and everything and help AJ, and then we may have to rely on you too and everything. But it was so late in the season, and it was like, week 10 or something. I was just like, Coach, I haven't been. I said, honestly, I'm gonna be honest with you. I said, I've been a couch potato since I really made the decision back in August. I'm really done, and they were like, well, that's all right. We'll give you about 2 weeks to get in shape and everything, and get your mind right, get your body right and everything. And but I just couldn't commit to it.
I wish you would have. I mean, that would have been awesome if you would have came back to Cincinnati to mentor McCarron for the remaining of the year. But it's understanding that you want to just retire and relax, and since you spent so much of your life playing football. So throughout your NFL career, who were some players that you played with that you believe never really received the credit that they deserved?
Players I played with and never. I would probably say London Fletcher. London was he's a Hall of Fame linebacker. Hopefully he gets a chance to get the yellow jacket one day. For sure. He was one of the players. And Darren McFadden was another guy that was really good. Like, people don't realize how good Darren McFadden was. When I played with this guy in Oakland, man, this guy was electric. He was fast. He just got hurt a lot. But if you remove those injuries, man, this guy here is a playmaker, man. I wish he could have stayed healthy a lot of those years, because people would have really saw how dynamic this kid was. And because he runs so physical and violently and everything. I just don't think he ever got the credit that he really, really deserved. And everything. But, those two guys was one of the two guys I would say for sure. And everything. But it's football. It's a lot of guys that get underrated. A lot of guys get pumped up too much that, you go to work with them every day. You just like, only if they knew. You know what I'm saying? But then there's some guys that, they just go to work. Blue collar guys go to work, put their shirt on, put the jersey on, go fight, do everything they can do to play football, and not trying to receive any attention for it. And those be the guys that really make the scrawl go, makes the game go, but don't get a lot of credit because they're not in those prime positions or something. But those guys that come to work and try to do it the right way.
McFadden, he was great, but he just couldn't stay healthy. And
right.
Fletcher, he was super, super underrated. If he played for the Steelers or Cowboys, one of those high market teams, he would have been a Pro Bowler, and people would have been talking about him all the time. He's definitely should be a future Hall of Famer. So these are some rapid fire questions. Who's the funniest teammate you ever had?
Fred Smoot.
What's your favorite go-to meal?
Salmon, broccoli, and sweet potato casserole.
Who is your all-time favorite music artist?
Jay-Z.
What's your favorite movie?
That's a good one. Favorite movie? That's a good one. I guess I would just say, you know what? I like Friday Night Lights. I mean, not Friday Night Lights. Remember the Titans is a good movie.
And the last question is, if you were never a football player, what would have you liked to have been?
I wasn't a football player. I probably would have been a basketball player or a coach.
That's really cool. Giving back to kids and coach and stuff like that. So can you tell some of the listeners where they can follow you on social media?
Yeah, you can follow me at jcampbell17 on Instagram. You can follow me on Twitter, capital JCAM _17. And you also can follow my podcast at Bleav In Everything Auburn, BLEAV. And then go to Arbor, and you'll see myself and Taylor Beth Davis. We do a show on there. You're welcome to follow us. It's free subscription and everything. So, yeah, you can find me on those 3 places.
Make sure to go follow Jason on Twitter and Instagram, and make sure to go check out his podcast. Thank you all so much for listening, and I'll see you next time on the Sports 2 Show.